Well, I'm gonna switch this compressor tank over. I've already taken everything off of the old one except for these two on the end. They haven't come off yet. And I ran into a couple of different things here. I was going to try to take these plugs out. They look like 1 inch, but they're not. They are 23 millimeters. It's a little bit less than 1 inch. 1 inch drive will not fit in that. And I hunted around on the internet and found out it has something to do with a railroad size something or another, and I found an adapter to plug a 1 inch gun into that adapter and into this, but it's $64. Well, they can keep it. It's the only one I found on the internet. So they're staying in there. The only way I can get those out would be I'd have to weld something onto the outside of them to turn it with. So I'm not going to do that. I just went to the, let me go to the other side, get the sunlight on it. Went to the hardware store and bought these fittings. That's a 2 inch pipe thread fitting. So they didn't have one that went from 2 inch down to 1/2 inch. It goes from 2 inch to 1 inch was all I could find at the store, and then from 1 inch to 1/2 inch. So I bought those for each end. All the other fittings match up. They're 3/4 pipe thread fittings. I took them off the old one, put them on here. One difference I'm running into that's going to make me do some work is this top plate here is more narrow. This thing here doesn't matter. That's just part of the fan belt guard. And I don't even have the fan belt guard. I didn't get it with the compressor. Which I can use this one, but I don't have one over here. As you can see, there's no slot for this back part for that motor, and don't have it on this end either. So I'll have to cut those in there. I'm gonna find out exactly where the motor needs to sit. There's an issue with this tube, since all of this has to move. All of this motor and pump have to move out this way a little bit so I can have room for this pulley wheel to not hit the base, because the pulley wheel is bigger than the height of the compressor. So the options are either mount the compressor higher, put a spacer under it, or move it all out, which I gotta do some of that over here anyway. There's no holes over here to mount the compressor. I gotta mark it and drill holes for that. This tube is a piece of copper. I don't know exactly what size. Flexible copper tubing is going to be measured from the outside, so I'm going to say that's 1/2 inch. I'll have to measure it and make sure. And I can get a new piece of that and bend it. This end here, the ferrule was spinning loose on there a little bit, and I remember when this compressor was running, when it was running on that tank, that we had a slight leak over here. Now it doesn't leak after it's full because the check valve, this is the check valve for the compressor, keep the air in the tank from coming back out and leaking back out through the compressor. So that stops the air. As long as that check valve's leaking, is not leaking, then we didn't have any air coming back out and leaking back out of here. It would just leak out of here when it was pumping, but not very much, just a little bit. So what I'm probably going to do is stretch this tube, take these corners out of it, and hopefully it'll be long enough to reach from here to here by having to move the pump over this way a couple inches from where it was on the other tank. And get everything assembled right, and then I'll keep it in the back of my mind to get another piece of tubing like this and some ferrules and whatnot, make up a new piece to put on there. But I think I can get by with this one for now if I just straighten these corners out of it and make it a little bit straighter shot to go up there. It is flexible or soft copper tubing. I can get a piece of that at Home Depot, I believe. Got the pressure gauge over there. New tank, and it's the year 2023, and all the rest, everything else on it's good. This one over here is the year 1985, so this one's almost 40 years old. I ordered a new pressure regulator. For those who don't know anything about compressors, the pressure regulator screws in right here. This diaphragm end of it screws onto this, and then this little piece right here is the pressure shutoff. It's got a little needle up here, and it presses against this lever that opens and closes points. It's spring activated to change the pressure, or to raise or lower the shutoff pressure. And that little brass piece that I'm tapping with my finger there, that screws onto this. That is exposed to pressure in the compressor air line above it's actually above the check valve, and so it tells you how much pressure is coming out of the pump and going into the tank. I had to hunt I went on Amazon and I found about 100 different styles of these. They all look the same except for very minor differences, mostly where this piece right here mounts and whether or not they have the a shutoff switch for your electric. This one doesn't have a shutoff switch, it just plugs in. So you have to unplug it when you're not using it, or else if you blew an airline or something and it started leaking, it would sit there and run until you found out about it and turned it off. So anyway, I did order one that's got a shutoff switch on it, and it turns the pressure on at I think 145, and turns the pump on at 145 and turns it off at 175 on the air pressure. So that's another difference on these, is they have different air pressure turn on and turn off. So anyway, let me get back to work here. What I'm going to do right now is put a little small pipe wrench on this oil drain and spin it around the other way so that this is laying, compressor will lay flat. Right now it's sitting on that. So I'm going to spin that around so this will lay flat, and then I can start taking my measurements and mark everything to where I got to cut. I took a square and marked that line there, and so I can follow it with this, and then I'm going to mark where it's got to go over here. Taking all these fittings off, taking everything off that's going to go on the other tank, and of course I took the pump that I was taking measurements. Got my measurements to drill holes for the pump and the motor, and got those sitting over here. And while I was buying those plumbing fittings to put on the ends of that new tank, I didn't know how big of a hole this 1/2-inch valve had in it, and so I thought I'll buy another valve just in case. And look here, look at the difference. The new valve has got quite a bit bigger hole going through it than the one that was on the tank when I bought it. And so as far as sending this 1/2-inch air pressure from the back, what I'm going to do is, it's over there, it's in that little garage behind the mobile home is where this air compressor goes, but it's going to send an air line underneath the mobile home out to the front here. There's going to be a concrete pad out in the front with a little rooftop over it, and just have a little place to do some work over there, so that when I bring my whole truck home, trailer and all, I can just back the trailer up onto that concrete pad instead of dropping the trailer, because for years I've been having to drop the trailer over here in front of my shop, and because it's, I can't leave the truck on it, it'd be out in the middle of the street. So that's why I'm setting up to do that over there. And back to this valve, when you're buying water valves for air or water or whatever, if the amount of flow is going to be an issue, make sure you get a valve with the biggest hole going through it, so that you don't have that restriction there, especially with water. Okay, I've rolled this old tank off of that cart. I'm going to reuse the cart. There's those two little patch welds I did on it, and then of course the drain plug. I'm going to take that drain plug out right now and put it in this one. Now that got this one sitting on the cart, and I was able to wiggle it up on there from this pallet up onto the cart. I didn't have to move all these vehicles. The Bobcat's sitting here in case I needed to do that, but I didn't. So that'd be my next move, is to put that drain on it over here. It's an easy part to replace. This is a perfect application for a magnetic drill press, which I do not have, but I think I'm going to go ahead and get one since I'm getting close to retiring from the truck. Not retiring, but going on part-time, and I'll be doing a lot more fab work like this at home. The magnetic drill press will stick to this plate, and then you just use a drill press to drill these holes. But without that, either I burn them with a torch or drill by hand, and that is what, 3/16 steel. That's going to be kind of tough to drill by hand, but I don't know yet. We'll see what I end up doing here. Looks like I am going to have to drill all these by hand. I wish I could just use a torch, but I can't clean the bottom side of that with this welded in place, so because I have to be able to clean the bottom side if I did it with a torch. I just drilled a pilot hole with a 3/16 drill bit, and we'll do the next hole with a bigger bit. For what size bolts are these? 3/8 bolts, so we'll go with about 7/16, so we have a little bit of room to play with the positioning of it, in case it's not the holes are not perfectly centered. I wanted to buy a magnetic drill press, but a millionaire couldn't get one today. They have to be ordered, all of them do. And I live in the St. Louis area, but there are none in any stores. And it costs $250 deposit and $55 a day to rent one, so I'm not going that route. And to buy one, it's going to be a week out to order one and wait for it to get here, so I just have to drill these by hand. I'm still going to buy one. I need one. And in case you don't know what a magnetic drill press is, it's a miniature drill press, and it's got a magnet base on it that sticks to a steel or any kind of magnetic conductive base. As long as it's flat, relatively smooth across there, it'll stick to that and hold the base down. Then you just drill down with it like a small drill press, and they're perfect for a job like this. Got the holes all done. They're using 1/4 bolts on the motor. I'll put those back in, so I drilled these at 5/16. These I drilled just a little bit under 7/16, and it took me probably 15-20 minutes. I'm still on one battery on this Milwaukee, and it's still showing a full charge, so it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, although I'm not in shape for this. My arm does hurt quite a bit from putting that much pressure on that drill for that long. But it wasn't that bad, so we got that part done. This new regulator I got did not come with plugs. Where that tube goes right here, this is the closest I can get, because this is a little bit farther distance from the center here where that tube goes into that check valve out to here. It's a little bit farther than it was on the other tank. So I need to screw this thing in here. If I don't want to replace that tube with a new one, which is a lot more time and trouble, then I can just mount this thing with this over the tube. I can turn this thing until it stops in that position, and then the switch will be right here handy too. So we'll have the power coming in on this side and the power going out to the motor right here. That's the best place to mount this anyway. But as you can see, this plate's in the way, so I gotta notch some of that out. I'm going to use this grinder to see if we can notch it out with that. That should work out good. Of course, I had to take that little brass tube off of there and stick a bolt in there to keep the grinding dust from going in there. So this looks like it will line up pretty good for me there. If not, we'll have to grind it out a little bit more. When I set everything in place and lined them up, I wasn't going to get enough belt travel on the little slots on the bottom of that motor, so I did end up having to burn these holes out to make them a little bit longer so I can tighten the belt. Managed to find all the fittings I needed for everything, except I need a 3/8 nipple, a little bit longer than that one, so that I can have the oil drain for the pump. I gotta go up to the store and get that. I think I got everything mounted. Got my water drain on down there on the bottom. Got this regulator for the regular 3/8 hose, and got the 1/2 inch hose over here. And let's see, the pump is on, motor's on. The copper tube here, I straightened it out and changed the angle of it a little bit to get it to reach that, since everything's off over to one side. So the motor and the pump, the compressor, are just a little bit over to the right there. They're not sitting dead center because this top here was several inches wider than the original one. So all I got to do now is hook up the electric here, get that hooked up inside of this, and then fire it up. I think I'm about ready to plug this thing in and try it out. I couldn't put this armored cable cover on this wire because it just wouldn't make that bend, but I could slip a piece of fuel line or something over that someday. I don't see an adjustment on here for the pressure unless this is it right here in the middle, the torque, so I'm not sure. I'll try it and see. If I don't like the pressures, then I'll try an adjustment on that. But let me fire it up, let's see what it does. Okay, it shut off about where I want it, but it's leaking someplace. Okay, the water thing is leaking. Have to deal with that. Well, I got to slow down a little bit, but then the butterfly on it broke loose and spun loose, so I'll have to buy a new water drain thing there for it. Other than that, I think we're okay. I'm going to water check with some soapy water around these things here, or at least I'll listen through a piece of hose. I don't hear anything else. I think we're okay. I guess the only thing I got left to do is mount these pieces of wood underneath the legs, kind of like those are mounted over there. I'm not going to reuse those. I'll use these because I just found these sitting aside the garage here, and they're just right at the right length, so Alright, well thanks for watching.